Welcome to National Park number 5, Saguaro National Park, home of the namesake cactus and 2 million of its friends.
Come along as we show you where to camp and some must-do activities here in one of my all-time favorite national parks. We're Howard and Caitlin Newstate. This year, we're traveling to 51 parks in 52 weeks. We're visiting all the U.S. national parks in the lower 48 in a special Winnebago Vista NPF limited edition. Each week, we're sharing where to stay, what to do, and introducing you to the people doing incredible work across our national parks. Saguaro National Park is divided into 2 separate districts that are about 45 minutes apart, with the city of Tucson sandwiched right in the middle. The west side, or Tucson Mountain District, has a higher concentration of those majestic saguaro cacti and is the smaller of the 2 sides. The east side, Rincon Mountain District, is mostly wilderness, framed by the Rincon and Santa Catalina mountain ranges. There are great trails and driving loops on both sides, and we highly recommend planning enough time to visit both. So where should you stay when visiting Saguaro? It might be a little surprising given its size, but Saguaro National Park only offers backcountry tent camping available by permit only. For those of us traveling by RV, there's an excellent county park campground very close to the southern entrance of the Tucson Mountain District, aka the west side of Saguaro National Park.
This is Gilbert Ray, one of our absolute favorite campgrounds. It might be Caitlin's favorite campground.
Yes.
Because of all these tall things that are all around us. This is our 3rd time here. The first time we came, it was also in the winter. The second time we came, it was the middle of July, and we were the only people in the campground. So it's nice to be back again in milder temperature. As you can see, you need to wear layers when you're here in the winter.
Okay, I'm going to show you our backyard and why I love this so much. If you've been following us for a while, you know that I'm obsessed with cactus of any shape, form, whatever. And look at our backyard. There are just hundreds and hundreds of saguaro cactus as far as the eye can see. And the sunsets here are incredible. There are 130 RV sites with 30 amp electric water spigots located throughout each loop and 2 dump stations and a freshwater fill. There is 1 small loop that is first come first serve, otherwise you must make online reservations ahead of time, and beware, this campground does book up quickly. This is an excellent place to use as a base camp for exploring the park. Just keep in mind that the east side of the park is about 45 minutes away. Tucson is a major city, so there are also plenty of hotel and Airbnb options nearby as well that will place you right in the center of town and about equidistant to both of the park's districts. Our first stop was to the Tucson Mountain District, where we popped into the visitor center for our passport stamp and to check out some of the great displays on the plant and wildlife found here. There's also an overlook area on the back side of the building where you can get great views of hundreds of saguaros.
So it might seem kind of weird that I'm wearing a jacket and we're in the desert, but that's because last night it started to rain, and then this morning we woke up and there was even a little bit of snow, which is kind of wild when you're inside of Saguaro National Park. So we left the visitor center and we took the Bajada Loop Drive, which is a dirt road, but it is pretty good. And we're doing the Valley View Overlook Trail, which is 0.8 miles round trip, so it's a quick one and a great way to see tons of different cactus. Well, this saguaro cactus is pretty interesting because 2 of its arms have twisted and grown down, and one of them is actually resting on the ground right here, and the other one is about 6 inches off the ground. I like these a lot because where the spikes come out, it just looks so cool. It reminds me of some sort of, I don't know, like protective helmet you would see in like a sci-fi movie. Wait, really?
Yeah, look at them. See all the holes, like where they come out?
Yeah.
It's like crazy looking. When I think of cholla cactus, I usually think of the ones that are teddy bear cholla because they give off kind of that fluffy look. Obviously, they're anything but fluffy, but I have never seen pencil cholla before. They have really long thorns on them. They don't give off the appearance of anything soft at all. Wow, look, I've never seen like that.
What is it?
I have never seen ocotillo like this. It's actually blooming right now. And then you get the pretty orangish red flowers. That is so cool.
Well, we got up to the top of Valley View, and true to its name, there's a valley view. But what's neat is we're on a ridge line, so there's actually a bench going this way as well, because there's beautiful views this way and this way.
It's a great display of prickly pear cactus. And I'm curious because I talk a lot about cactus. What is your favorite kind of cactus? Do you like the prickly pears, the saguaros, the fuzzy like bunny ear ones, cholla cactus? There's so many. What's your favorite kind?
Caitlin is presuming that everyone has a favorite cactus. You can also not like cactus. And if you don't like cactus, also let us know in the comments below.
No.
Yeah, let us know.
This is one of our favorite trails to do here in Saguaro National Park. It's a quick and easy walk, and you get to see some amazing displays of ancient petroglyphs. They're up on the rocks here, and it is just so cool. If you stop and just stand and look at it, you'll start to see all the different shapes. If you keep coming up the steps to the top, there are even more of them that you can see, and they're on both sides of the rocks, so make sure you walk around. I just spotted some deer on the backside here. During this visit to Saguaro National Park, we stuck to shorter hikes because of time and weather, but if you're looking for a longer, more strenuous hike, we would highly recommend Kings Canyon up to Wasson Peak. We did it back in 2019. It will take several hours and has quite a bit of elevation gain, but we loved it. We're at the Rincon Mountain Visitor Center, which is in the East District of Saguaro National Park, and we're getting ready to go on a 2-hour ranger-led caravan on the Loop Drive to learn all about the Sonoran Desert.
Hi everybody, welcome to Saguaro National Park. My name is Milena. I am a next generation ranger here. So I don't have that straw flat hat or the shiny gold badge, but I'm an intern working at the park to hopefully someday get those things. And I've been working here for a little bit over a year, and I grew up in Tucson, so this is my home, and I love talking about it.
So what exactly is the NextGen Ranger program? Well, before we jump into Milena's awesome caravan tour, we want to share more about this very unique program that exists thanks in part to the Friends of Saguaro, the official philanthropic partner of the park since 1996. They help fundraise for crucial initiatives across Saguaro National Park.
So the most important programs that we have at Saguaro National Park are, there's 3 of them. It's the environmental education program, it's trails, and it's the NextGen Ranger program. The NextGen program is really exciting. So it was a partnership that we created back in 2015 with the National Park Foundation, Saguaro National Park, and the National Park Service. So the NextGen program really focuses on helping diverse youth that want to work for the Park Service and get their foot in the door. So they come in, they get training, they get engaged mentoring, they work 640 hours, and they develop all the skills and experiences that are required to be able to get their foot in the door for an entry-level job for the Park Service.
I have absolutely loved my experience here as a Next Generation Ranger. It's pretty particular to Saguaro National Park, as I'm sponsored by the Friends of Saguaro National Park, and I'm working with the Park Service itself. So I get to do things like work in the visitor center, give programs. I'm just doing things that rangers would do to give me a good idea of what a career in the Park Service would look like and give me experience doing that, so I'm a little more competitive and have an easier time getting a job. I really, really enjoyed it. I get to meet people from all over the world, hear how excited they are about this awesome place, and been able to develop my skills. I've really seen a lot of growth in myself, which has been really cool.
In 2015, when the program was created, since then we've had 92 NextGens that have participated in the program. We have 72% of all those NextGens are women, 68% are from underrepresented communities here in southern Arizona, and 36 former graduates now work permanently for the Park Service at different units across the country. 17 actually work here at Saguaro National Park, and that's something that's just really, really important to us. It makes a huge difference, and to be able to have that as a goal, it takes time. But the Park Service and everyone's kind of on the same page with making this work, and we wouldn't be able to continue to have this amazing program if it wasn't really for the ongoing support from the National Park Foundation and the National Park Service. It's very much a collaborative success story, and I love getting the opportunities to talk about it and let more people know about it.
I would love to get a position within the Park Service, especially here. I love working at Saguaro National Park. I just want to do something where I'm talking with people. I've learned that I feel like I'm pretty good at what I'm doing, and I want to keep doing that. So if I can just continue to make those little sparks in people and be able to show them about how cool wherever they are, what's around them is so awesome, I just want to keep doing that.
Milena is full of information, and she is just such a good storyteller, and she's very captivating with how she is telling this information. I just learned so much about the Sonoran Desert that I had no idea about, and again, it just gives you such a deeper appreciation when you're out here looking at all of this incredible nature.
Is there anything about this desert that challenges what you think of as a desert?
Very green.
It's a very green desert, yes. The Sonoran Desert is unique for a handful of reasons. We are the warmest of the North American deserts, and we are an incredibly wet desert, definitely the wettest out of the North American deserts, and one of the wettest deserts in the world. To the point where we're actually considered a semi-tropical desert, which is not things that you usually hear together. Those two factors lead us to another reason why we're unique, and that is our biodiversity. Saguaro National Park can feature sky islands. Is anybody familiar with that term? See some yeses, some nos. It is used to describe, in this region, mountain ranges that get to be a high enough elevation that what you find on top of the mountains is drastically different than down below. So as you are exploring a sky island, you're gonna go from desert up into forest, and that same variety in ecosystems is the same as if you were driving from Mexico up to Canada. You know, over a 1,000-mile span you can find by going 14 miles up our mountains.
The amazing sky islands that are within park boundaries are wilderness and therefore roadless, so you have to hike in order to see that change from desert to forest. However, there's a great similar example just outside the park. The Sky Island Scenic Byway takes you up 6,000 feet in about 45 minutes as you climb Mount Lemmon. If you're short on time, it's a fantastic way to experience the incredible change in landscape.
The Catalina Highway is pretty interesting because there are very distinct cutoffs, like the saguaro cactus stop at a certain point, and then suddenly you start to move into pine, and you start to move into oak, and it's like you can see the layers as the elevation and the climate is changing, and we're now over 6,000 feet. The temperature has already dropped a lot. As you can see, we're already wearing layers. But we thought this would be a really great representation of what you would experience if we were up on top of the Rincon Mountains inside of Saguaro National Park, because right now we are at roughly a comparable elevation and we're going even higher.
This is our second time making the drive up Mount Lemmon, and just like in many other places around the world, we found an audio tour. This one is great and really dives into the science of Mount Lemmon. It is done by the University of Arizona. It's completely free and you learn all kinds of great factoids like who Mount Lemmon is named after. And we'll put a link for it in the description.
So saguaros are really hard to age. There aren't any tree rings or anything. The only way to know exactly how old they are is if you saw exactly when the seed was put in the ground and took root. Or you can take the spines from the very bottom and try and carbon date them. We don't do that to every saguaro or many of them because that's a super long process. It's expensive and you just can't do it to a lot of different ones. And the tricky thing is there's so much that can affect how a saguaro grows, especially like year to year. If you have a saguaro that's super tall with lots of arms, what that's telling me is it's in an awesome spot. It's getting lots of water. It is able to use its energy to continue growing, and it's not just only having enough energy to like purely survive.
Wow. Look at how tall that saguaro is. I mean, I'm almost 6 foot. That's probably what, 30 feet?
Yeah.
40 feet?
Part of why I love saguaro cactus so much is they come in all different shapes and sizes, and I just found one that has arms growing sideways and one of the arms is growing down. It's just so cool because if you stop and really look at them all, they're so unique. They can actually expand their arms and their bodies based on their water intake, and that's kind of why they have that accordion-like appearance.
There are more than 2,000 plants that have been identified. Here within Saguaro National Park, we have a little over 1,200 that we've discovered. And in the past summer, we've discovered, but also rediscovered some plants, especially up in the mountains that we had heard were here, but hadn't seen them in decades.
My name is Dan Beckman. I am a biological science technician here in our Science and Resource Management Division at Saguaro National Park. I'm unofficially our park botanist. My passion is the plant life, especially of these mountains behind me, the Rincon Mountains. Year after year, I'm finding plant species that weren't even known to occur in the park, and they're just kind of in these little pockets.
What's it feel like when you find one of those?
Oh, totally thrilling. Yeah. And I'm an exuberant person, so I've definitely screamed and,
Jump for
fist
joy.
pumped. Yeah. Probably the most exciting, there was actually an orchid species up there. This is an orchid that requires perennially wet soil, so basically a spring or a seep. And we really thought that one was gone. And being so water dependent, it seemed like, yeah, maybe just it's spring and dried up. And we found a spring that had kind of fallen off the park's radar, and there it was in July in full bloom. And yeah, I mean, I screamed, I hollered, and it was like our whole crew on that day was just so excited. The other one it's fresh in my memory because it was this past summer was actually a super rare fern that we found right here by the southern peak known as Rincon Peak, which is kind of the most dramatic peak. It has really steep sides, very challenging country to navigate. So started to explore some of that area more this past year through backpacking trips. And high up on the east face of it, we found Arizona lip fern, which it's a species I had like vaguely heard about, but did not think was really possible that we could find it here. The other fun thing about that one is that that species was recently moved to a new fern genus by these researchers at Duke University, genus Gaga, which is actually named after Lady Gaga. Is it really? Yeah. And it's a small group of the Lady Gaga lip ferns. If I'm being honest, I think these researchers were just big Lady Gaga fans, and there's nothing wrong with just naming a plant after someone you're a fan of, but they did offer some additional reasons. They talked about Lady Gaga as an icon of equality and self-expression, and I think it was something that the researchers who were working on this group of ferns identified with. She was all about it, and said she was honored by kind of these ferns, this incredible life cycle, being associated at all with her.
There are several hiking trails that you can do off of the scenic loop drive, and one of those is the Freeman Homestead Trail, which is about a mile loop trail. The Freeman family moved onto this land under the Homestead Act in 1929, building a road and several structures, including their house. Once this area was turned into a national monument, they eventually sold the land to the United States government, and the Freeman Homestead has been placed on the Arizona State Register of Historic Places.
The mountain behind me is all that remains of the Freeman homestead, but human civilization dates back over 1,000 years on this land.
The original inhabitants of this land left their mark through petroglyphs, as well as artifacts that scientists have since discovered, pointing to evidence that they were master farmers, growing crops that would thrive in the desert, like corn, squash, chilies, and beans. Another plant that they began growing and harvesting was agave, built into terraces on the slopes of these hills. The agave had many purposes, including producing the alcoholic beverage mezcal. The saguaro cactus was also of great importance for the desert people who called this land home. Not only was it a spiritual symbol, but they would often harvest the fruit that blooms in the spring, boiling it into a jam or syrup, or even fermenting it into a celebratory wine. The connection between people who once inhabited this area and those who now visit it all help make up the important history of this land that we now get to enjoy as a national park. We're about to do something very special and unique and experience the national park after dark on a ranger-led hike to learn about the nocturnal wildlife here in Saguaro.
The sun will officially go down past the horizon at 6:17 tonight. So we got a few more minutes of this sunset time together. And then we will be moving on into the twilight zone, if you will, in the park, because night is technically not until 7:40 tonight. As we walk out into the desert tonight is going to be this theme of twilight. And through science and in ecology and in astronomy, we segment this time frame up into a couple of different zones, and we've noticed that several animals use these different levels of light and different variations of temperature differently. The twilight zone that we are currently in is the nautical twilight zone. If you were out on the open sea, this would be the time in which the first stars that are going to be helpful for navigation are going to be visible to the naked eye. Whether you realize it or not, you have survived your first level of the twilight zone.
Okay, so I have two devices right now. One is the bat echolocation device, and it is listening for bats, since we can't hear them with our own ears. And the other one are night vision goggles, and trying to see if we can see any critters out here. I haven't been lucky yet, but the night is young.
What this does is it receives the infrared information that is radiating off of the desert around us, and then translates that into a visual spectrum, in this case grayscale, that we humans can interpret with our vision.
The next tool we got to test out was a thermal camera to try and spot some wildlife.
The coldest stuff is going to be a deep blue, violet kind of color, and then the hottest stuff is going to appear white. Kind of in the middle, you're going to have kind of an orangish or yellowish color.
It was surprisingly neat to use the thermal camera on the saguaro cactus because you could see just how much heat they retain even on the chilliest of nights. Ranger Eric did a phenomenal job on the Night Comes Alive program and even finished the evening off with a quick astronomy lesson.
So right up here we got the Orion's belt, and then there's his sword, And there is the head and the foot. I believe is Beetlejuice, if I'm remembering correctly.
While the wildlife was a bit shy for us on our night hike, take a listen to what we could hear back at our campsite. Just a reminder that even though you might not always see it, the nocturnal wildlife is out there and very active here in the Sonoran Desert. On our next episode, we're continuing west to California to another desert playground full of whimsical trees, great hiking, and camping. Come along to Park number 6, Joshua Tree. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.